My daughter-in-law did not know I was standing in the corridor outside the catering office when she told the wedding planner I was not to be given a seat. She said it plainly: no seat, no invitation, no table card. She said, and I remember this precisely, she said, "The guest list is final. Margaret is not on it. If she arrives, she is not to be allowed inside." I stood very still. I had not moved. I had not breathed loudly. I was simply there, holding a folder of documents I had brought to review with the events manager, and I heard every word. My name is Margaret. I am 74 years old. I was married for 31 years to a man who built his first business in a borrowed room above a bakery on a wet November morning in 1979. I kept the books. I answered the phone. I was there when we had nothing, and I was there, quietly, when we had something. I'm not a woman who shouts. I never have been. But I own that venue. I have owned it since 2004, when my husband and I purchased it as part of a small property portfolio we were quietly expanding. When he died 4 years ago, it passed to me. All of it. The Wisteria Hall, along with 7 other commercial properties, sits in my name. My name alone. My son had no idea. My daughter-in-law had no idea. They had booked the venue through an agency. They had signed a lease with a management company whose parent company is one of my holdings. I had not engineered this. I had simply not thought to mention it. Why would I? It was business. It was mine. It had been mine long before Claudia came into the picture. The corridor was cool. It smelled of fresh flowers and something being warmed in the kitchen below. I looked down at the folder in my hands and I thought, well, so, this is where we are. Let me go back a little so you understand what had brought us to that corridor on a Tuesday morning in March. My son, Daniel, married Claudia 11 months ago. She is not a cruel woman. I want to be fair to her. She is ambitious. She came from a different kind of family, louder, more arranged around appearances, more concerned with hierarchy and image than with anything quietly built. I understood her up to a point. I did not expect her to love me. I only expected her to be civil. She was not. In the 2 years before the wedding, I was slowly, methodically excluded. Not all at once. These things are never done all at once. First, I was left off a dinner reservation. Then I was not consulted about the engagement party venue. Then at the engagement party itself, I was seated apart from the family, at a table near the rear entrance, with 2 of Claudia's colleagues from work who did not know who I was. Daniel said nothing. He smiled and moved between tables, and I watched him and I thought, I have raised a man who cannot hold one firm position in a room. That was its own grief, and I carried it quietly. When the wedding invitations went out, mine did not arrive. I waited a week. Then I rang Daniel. He was apologetic in the way people are apologetic when they are not actually sorry, quickly, already looking for the exit. He said there had been a venue issue and the guest list had been revised, and he was sorry, he truly was, but the numbers were tight. The numbers were tight. For his mother. I told him I understood. I did not argue. I did not cry. I put the phone down and I sat in my kitchen for a long time, looking at the garden my husband had planted. I thought about what it means to build something with your hands and your years
and your silence, and then to be counted as surplus. And then I thought, I already have business at Wisteria Hall. I had a scheduled meeting with the events manager regarding a renewal clause in the lease. I had simply not connected the two pieces of information before that moment. I decided I would go alone.
The venue was mine. I want you to understand what that means, practically, not emotionally. It does not mean I could simply walk in and rearrange everything. There was a lease, a management company, event bookings made legitimately through commercial channels. The couple had paid a deposit. There was a contract. I am a woman who respects contracts. But I also knew something the management company had not yet communicated to the booking party because it had only just been decided. Wisteria Hall was not renewing its lease with its current operations manager after this season. The venue would be pausing for refurbishment beginning in early autumn. The events manager had been preparing the formal notices. For all bookings made before a certain date, there would be a contractual break clause that could be triggered, with appropriate notice, if there were material changes to the property agreement. My son's wedding was inside that window. I want to be very clear. I did not intend to use that clause, not immediately, not cruelly. I am not built for cruelty. But I went to that meeting. I sat with the events manager. I reviewed the renewal documents. I updated the break clause language to be specific and clear. And at the end of that meeting, I asked for one additional thing. I asked for a formal notice of potential lease termination to be prepared, not issued, only prepared. A document that existed in legal form with the correct wording and the correct dates. I took a single copy with me in a sealed envelope. The events manager was professional. He asked no unnecessary questions. I went home. I sat at my kitchen table. I made a cup of tea I did not drink. I'm not a dramatic woman. I did not rehearse speeches. I did not imagine confrontations. I simply thought about what it is to be excluded from something you built, or something you own, or something that exists because of your silence and your patience and your long, quiet years. And I thought about a gift. My son had not asked for one. He had not sent me an invitation. But I had raised him, and I was his mother. And some part of me, the stubborn, undramatic part, decided I would send something regardless. I went to my writing desk. I found a plain white card. I found the smallest denomination coin I had in my purse, which was a £1 coin, and I folded it into the card in the old way my mother had taught me. A coin inside a handkerchief of paper, not rattling, not obvious. I wrote nothing on the card except, "From your mother. Something you'll need later." I placed the sealed lease notice inside a second, heavier envelope. I placed that envelope inside the wedding card. I sealed it. I addressed it to both of them. I posted it 2 days before the wedding. I did not sign the outer envelope. I folded it once and placed it in my coat pocket. The ceremony was beautiful. I know this because my neighbor Ellen attended as a guest of one of Claudia's colleagues, and she rang me that evening and described it in careful, kind detail, the way people do when they know you should have been there and weren't. She told me about the flowers, all in cream and soft gold, and about Daniel's face when Claudia walked in, and how the vows had been personalized and quite moving. She told me the food was good, and the speeches ran long, and that the dancing started late. I listened. I thanked her. I made another cup of tea I did not drink. I had not gone to the venue that day. I had considered it briefly on the morning of the wedding. I dressed, as I always do, carefully. I wore the grey coat my husband had bought me. I sat in the hallway for several minutes, and then I put my keys back on the hook. It was not my day to interrupt. Whatever was coming would come in its own time. I spent that Saturday in my garden. It was cold for June, but the roses were starting, and I have always found that the garden does not require you to explain yourself. I pruned, I weeded, I stayed until the light changed. In the weeks that followed, I did not reach out. Daniel sent a brief message. "Thank you for the card, Mum. It was kind." No mention of the envelope inside. No mention of the notice. I did not know whether they had opened it. I did not ask. That silence had its own weight. I had become accustomed to carrying weight quietly. I watched from outside. 3 weeks after the wedding, on a Tuesday afternoon, my son rang. He did not ring to thank me, or to update me, or to suggest we meet for lunch. He rang because he had received, that morning, a formal letter from the venue's management company. The letter referenced a contractual break clause. It referenced a potential refurbishment window. It referenced, in legal language, the possibility of a change in venue operations affecting events booked beyond a certain date. The honeymoon had been booked through the venue's in-house concierge service. The farewell dinner, planned for a month hence, had been reserved in the venue's private dining room. Both were potentially affected. Daniel was frustrated. He was, in the way of people who have always had things arranged for them, more confused than anything, more offended than alarmed. He said the venue had no right. He said they had a contract. He said he would look into it. I said, "Daniel, before you do that, did you open the full card I sent you?" Silence. "The envelope inside the card," I said, "the heavier one." I heard him put me on hold. I heard him come back. I heard the sound of paper. "Mum," he said, This is a lease notice from the venue. It has your name at the top. It has..." He stopped. "Why does it have your name at the top?" "Because I own the venue, Daniel." He did not speak for a long time. I told him simply, not triumphantly, not with any edge. I told him when the purchase had happened, and that it had always been part of the wider portfolio, and that his father had been a quiet man who had built quietly, and that I had continued in the same way. I told him the venue was well managed and perfectly safe for events, and that I had no intention of disrupting anything that had already taken place. "But the notice," he said. "The notice," I said, "was prepared the morning your wife told the events coordinator I was not to be given a seat at my own son's wedding. It exists. It has not been issued. Whether it is issued is still being considered." There was a very long silence. I let him sit in it. He asked me what I wanted. That is what people ask when they realize they have miscalculated. Not, "Mum, I am sorry." Not, "I should have stood beside you." "What do you want?" I said I wanted nothing that could be given in a phone call. I said I would like him to come to tea on Saturday, just him. I said I would put the kettle on, and we would talk the way families talk when they remember they are families. 3 days later, Claudia rang. She was controlled on the phone. She is not a woman who shows her full hand. She asked if we might meet. She was gracious in that particular way that is not quite gracious, the way that acknowledges a shift in position without conceding the feelings behind it. I said yes, of course. Saturday would be fine. I would make enough for 3. I went to my writing desk. I found the sealed lease notice. I made one small administrative note on the outer edge of the file, a date, a decision, and I placed it back in its folder. I handed it to her without a word. She read it standing in the hallway. She read it twice, I think. Daniel stood beside her. Neither of them spoke. The kitchen smelled of the shortbread I had made that morning. There was no dramatic music. There was no confrontation. There was simply a woman of 74 standing in a hallway, handing a piece of paper to 2 people who had not thought to ask who she was before they decided she did not matter. The administrative note I had made on the file was this: no further action. Property retained. No notice to be issued. I had voided it. Not because they deserved it voided. Not because of the phone call or the visit or anything they had said or promised. I voided it because I am not a woman who uses what she owns as a weapon. I built things quietly, and I protected things quietly, and I do not dismantle what I have built, even when I am hurt, especially when I am hurt. My husband used to say, and I have thought about this many times since he passed, he used to say that the measure of what you have built is not what you can destroy with it. It is what you choose not to destroy, even when you could. I made 3 cups of tea. We sat in the kitchen. We did not speak about the venue, or the lease, or the wedding card. Claudia thanked me for the shortbread. Daniel talked about work. There were long patches of quiet, and I let them be quiet. Silence between people who have stopped pretending is not uncomfortable. It is simply honest. Things have not been transformed. I do not believe in sudden transformations at my age. But there has been, since that Saturday, a different quality to the silence between us. Claudia rings on Sundays now. Not always, but often enough. Daniel visited last month and sat in the garden with me for an hour without looking at his phone. Small things. Small things are the architecture of large ones. I think about the pound coin sometimes. That foolish, small, irreducible pound coin sitting inside its folded paper. I sent it because I did not know what else to send. Because I am his mother, and some things survive even when they probably should not. That coin was not a power move. It was not a code. It was simply something you'll need later. I do not know if they will ever fully understand what it cost me to be quiet for as long as I was quiet. I do not know if they can imagine the weight of standing in a corridor holding a folder while someone calmly arranges for you to be excluded from your son's wedding, from your own venue, and saying nothing. Walking to your car, driving home, sitting in a garden. But I know this: the people who are quietly the most are often quietly the most powerful. Not because they have arranged to be, not because they planned it that way, but because quiet people spend their years building, not announcing. And what is built does not disappear because someone forgot to count it. If you are being counted as nothing right now, by someone in your family, by someone who should know better, I want you to hear this from someone who has been there. You may already own the room they've locked you out of. They simply haven't thought to ask. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story sat with you, if it found something that needed finding, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to Voices of Quiet Souls. More stories like this one are waiting. Quiet ones. True ones. The quiet carry the most. Take care of yourself.